Our next speaker, Chris Dutton, is a veterinarian from Connecticut. He began his career working in Rutland County, Vermont, and he found something was missing as a veterinarian. So he ended up working as a partner in a dairy up in the kingdom and worked with lots of cows. Something was missing there too. He went back to his practice. He missed the land. He missed his animals. He took to teaching at VTC. He had animals, land, young, enthusiastic people, so many of whom became farmers in their turn. Now he teaches. He milks 76 of his own with his students, and he's also the leader of the Food Systems Institute at VTC, which is really the cutting-edge leader in education in Vermont. So, delightful to have you here with us, Chris.
So, thanks very much for having me. It is a pleasure. The title of this talk is How to Make a Farmer, and I'm not sure I'm an expert at all, but I've made a few, and each one is different. I want to say from the get-go. Teaching is very personal and should remain very personal. The most effective teaching to me is between two individuals, and so we try and make that happen every day at Vermont Tech, and I'm going to try and make that happen here and see what happens. So the first question is, what's a farmer? I have to introduce 874. She's one of my 76, and she's a lot bigger now and pretty much runs her world. She was in heat last week. That's what I can tell you today. But when we talk about a farmer, what do you think about when you think about a farmer? I think the first word's independent. The second word's probably, it's a phrase, hardworking, and then smart or tough might be the word you think of. We don't use the word science, and I think it's, by the way, I'm just going to go on a little side note here. I think it's a mistake to use the word science when we talk about farmers. Just like I think it's a mistake to use the word producer or operation when we talk about a vegetable growing operation. I think if we talk about farms and farmers, we're talking about people, and our message becomes, we're talking about a way of life, and I think our message becomes much clearer. And that's my main point today about teaching farmers, is that we're not teaching science, although we do teach science. We're teaching an identity. And if we do that, we can be very successful. Let's talk a little bit about that identity. In order to do that, in order to teach about the identity of being a farmer, you kind of have to be one yourself. It helps. Now let's think about college professors. I would not call college professors tough. I would not sometimes call them very hardworking, personal observation, although some work very, very hard. And I would not necessarily call them independent. In fact, they're almost all very organized and unionized, and they have meetings on Friday afternoons. And remember, I'm one, so we can do this. We have meetings where we admire problems. So rather than fixing barn cleaners, we design studies not to use barn cleaners, or form coalitions to study the discussion of the use of barn cleaners and the implementation planning of barn cleaners. But we don't necessarily fix barn cleaners. And so that's a problem. So I think one of the first steps that I want to say about creating farmers is you got to kind of be all in. You got to be a farmer. And if you do that, I think you can be really successful. And let's talk about why. Why being a farmer seems to be so cool right now. I think it has to do with a pretty close connection to the earth. And there's power in that. Let's all admit that. There's farmers in the room now. I can tell you that having bought my 76 cows and milked them with some great students, it feels really good to write, and I just did the books, $330,000 worth of checks to the local economy. I thought I'd hate paying bills. I'm not really a paperwork kind of person. I certainly hate bureaucratic paperwork, but I really like writing checks to people in my state. I really like writing checks to the auto parts store, and that's been one of the most rewarding things. I have some kind of snotty Harvard-educated people in my family, and I hold my own at the Thanksgiving table because I make food, and let's recognize that there's power in that, and let's enjoy that power and let's share that power. So I just want, with this part of the talk, I wanted to point out that farming is an identity, and it's a great identity, and we need to recognize it. So what are my rules for making farmers? I think the first rule that you got to have when you make a farmer, and it's interesting that this guy's picture came up. I had someone else pick the pictures. He's from Brooklyn. But you have, that doesn't mean no judging. But what I want to say is that you have to assume that everybody who says to you they want to be a farmer, they're a farmer. Unconditional love right from that moment on, and that's my ticket. That's my key. Is anybody who says they want a farmer is a farmer, which means I think of them as being independent, and I certainly treat them like they're tough, and I treat them like they're hardworking. And so we immediately, as fast as we can, we pass along the identity. Now I have the great luxury and reward of having students that already have the identity. In fact, they've had it since birth. Many of them were had bassinet time in milking parlors, and so they help us communicate that we're talking about identity, and we're gonna act a certain way, and we're gonna be a certain way right from the get-go as we learn about farming. Second thing we do that I think is very important, second rule, is that we always support. Always support. Someone says to me, I want to milk 3,000 goats on half an acre. I say, let's talk. Maybe we can fix that a little bit, make it a little better. Someone says to me, I want to feed a family of 12 on an acre of rocks facing north in Vermont with one goat. I say, maybe we can fix that. Let's talk about it a little bit. And I think that's really key, is that now we're all farmers, we're all going to talk about it. Next thing we do, and have to do this immediately, and it's really, really important, is connect to the work. Most of my students work around 20 hours, some of them work many more. I think that's great, I think that's critical. I think that's critical to educating. So we connect students to work as much as we can. I pass this along to as many farmers as I can. We trade on our farm, my farm, school's farm, neighbors' farms. It seems to be a Pareto efficient deal, a lot of synergy. Is that farmers trade 15 hours of work for housing per week. And so students work for 60 hours in a month. I get to pay their rent and their utilities, and they get to go have a discount on their school. And that's been really effective for us. I'm trying to pass along. It doesn't make the people that sell dorm rooms in my school very happy, but I see it as very valuable, and we're going to continue to do that. Because if we connect to the work, now the identity builds. Now, even if you're from Brooklyn or from far away, you're a farmer, and you're talking about farming all the time. Last thing we try and do, last rule for educating farmers that I think is really, really important, is you put first things first, okay? We make very, very, very sure that we're talking about the most important things first. And so if everybody's working, coming in from chores to an 8 o'clock class, even though we're supposed to talk about chemistry or metabolism or physiology or something like that, and somebody has a down cow or some dying plants, we talk about those. We talk about those first, and if we're really, really good, we can connect them to the physiology or the chemistry that we're talking about that day. And that becomes very useful. So we always we put first things first. My students need to be taking care of their families, and I expect them to. And so sometimes education has to be second. And that's okay as long as we're all talking about it, because we're farmers and we're tough. So you see what builds here? By the time you've been through this process with bunches and bunches of students, you say, we're farmers, we're tough. Every problem gets solved. It's really fun. I don't have any money. Well, you're a farmer. Farmers don't have any money. Isn't that great? My back hurts. Well, we're farmers, and so every negative becomes a positive. The identity builds, and students learn. And so before long, you can start talking about some really good stuff. My nutrition class, I took over nutrition this year, and we a while back decided that in order to do it really well, we had to get down to carbon. We had to get down to the carbon level. And so we're about to start cellular metabolism, the dreaded Krebs cycle, TCA cycle, CAC cycle, however you've measured it, and how it makes ATP and how it makes cells go around, which make humans go around, which make the world go around. And we're talking about that in great detail with students that's not why they came to school. But everybody's buying in. And everybody's buying in. And before long, though, all the differences between farmers, and let's agree that there are a lot of differences between farmers, tend to go away, and the similarities start to rise up. We're all tough, we're all hardworking, we're all trying to improve every day, we're all fighting or working with or making some kind of dance with nature every day, and that's important. And so identity builds, and we have success. And before long, if you do this long enough, the students start to pick you up, and that's really, really fun. I got to share a story from this morning. I was standing here nervously waiting, digesting stomach lining, talking to so many people, and I got a text from a former student that said, looking good today. Make sure your fly is zipped. And so that's the kind of conversation, and it's on my phone, and I'm happy to share it with anybody. And I know this person. This person obviously knows me well and was willing to do this, but I lost the number. But I'm willing to bet it was Christy. And was it? All right. So before long, we become partners in education, and then things get really, really powerful. And so what's the next step? The next step is to acknowledge that regular education, although it has its places and is quite useful, has some disadvantages when it comes to educating farmers. And that's kind of what I'm most excited to share. Once you get this identity, you become impatient. You don't necessarily want to learn things that aren't going to further your personal mission of creating food, and you don't necessarily want to be taught by people that aren't the best, that aren't passionate like you are. You want to be able to share energy in a room and make a lot of progress in a short period of time. And so what we're trying to do, and I don't want to do this alone, although I'm starting alone, is we're trying to create a series of short courses. We have stop by the booth, we have about 30 prepared so far starting in May or June, and we're hoping to get experts teach intensively for short periods of time on very specific topics of agriculture, ranging from welding and equipment stuff. I'm so excited to hear about the stuff from Quebec that we just talked about, and all the way to yogurt and cheese and other products as well, organic gardening. Some people we have teaching for us. We have the Vermont Beekeepers Association teaching for us. We have Brent Beidler teaching for us, and we're able to get better instructors because we're asking them to come in for short periods of time and be very, very passionate. And I'd like to share this with many, many other institutions. What I'm hoping to do is create a system whereby in Vermont, if somebody needs a course on a specific topic of agriculture, we can put it together, deliver it very well to the right number of people in the right way. And so that's what I'm up to right now. And I'm hoping that we can create even more farmers to get even more economy going and more money going in our own community and a happier, healthier community. And so this education, I'm pandering a little bit, but let's enjoy it. I think that makes education more organic in the sense that it's teacher and student and in a way that everybody's interested, and we're not wasting faculty time, and we're not wasting student time either. So that's what I'm up to. And by the way, one last thing when I think about making farmers is when you make a farmer, they don't have to farm, because I believe farmers make better everything. Policemen, town council members, truck drivers, just about everything. And if you ask folks in manufacturing, they'll tell you the same thing. They're really after the same farm kids that I'm trying to get to go back to the farm. So that's my proposal. Let's not sell a profession. Let's sell an identity, and let's support everybody. Thanks.